Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the show. This week we've got Georgina Parren. She's a multi-skilled broadcast operator. Welcome, Georgina.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
No problem. Yeah, let's start off by asking you, where did you start off and what did you do to get into the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, actually, it's a funny story. We actually had a family friend that was working at the BBC at the time, and I believe I was in my second year of university at Sussex University. So I wasn't even in London, but I used to come back a lot, obviously during the breaks and at weekends as well, to see family. And it just so happened that one day got in contact with this family friend and asked if I could go in and have a day's walk around the BBC, which was in White City. And yeah, I was there for a day. It was amazing, great experience. And it just so happened that I started talking to the right person. I started talking to the lady that hired the autocue operators there. And she just said, "You seem like a really nice person. Would you like a job here?" And I said, "Yes, please." So I trained up as an autocue operator. And from there, that's where my career started. So I was at the BBC 24-hour news service. I was an autocue operator, usually doing night shifts for about 4 years. So as soon as I graduated university, it was kind of a no-brainer. I just went straight into the BBC.
Wow, that's a pretty lucky break you got, I guess.
Yeah, it was very lucky, yes.
And I'm always curious if, was broadcast something that you'd thought of before then? Is it something where there was any flags or any sort of calling signs for you? Was there any indications that you were destined for the industry?
If I'm totally honest, no. I don't think that television had really crossed my path in that way. I was very much into performing arts, and I still am. And for me, the performing arts was definitely a major route that I wanted to go down. But obviously, with any creative, you need to have some other alternative where you can actually make money and pay the bills while you're still trying to keep the creativity going on the side. And actually, television was perfect for that, because I stayed as a freelance my entire time that I've been working in television broadcast, which does have its pros and cons. But the pros is that you get so much time that you can commit to your creative side of things. So while I was freelancing in television, I have been able to improve my acting, to study at drama school, to do lots of online courses, to be singing still. So television actually went kind of hand in hand with my other creative side.
Yeah. And you said you worked night shifts at the beginning of that career.
Yes.
How was that? Did you expect to work night shifts? How difficult was it to adjust?
Yes, I think I did have a very good idea from going in. I think I was actually told pretty much on my first day that even though you're here training up and shadowing during the day, bear in mind the shifts when you're actually, flying solo on your own, you're going to be in at night, because that's where we need our freelance autocue operators. It was quite difficult to adjust. The easiest way to adjust to it was doing a bunch of shifts all back to back to back. Yeah. So you would get, chunks of maybe 3 or 4 shifts, and that made it a lot easier, because I just drummed it into myself to get into the habit of the night before my first night shift. The day before my first night shift, I would stay up as long as physically possible, so that it would have a knock-on effect, and I would have to sleep during the day, so that by the time my alarm went off and I had to go in for my night shift, I had just completely reversed my kind of day and night. And obviously the first and second shift doing that is quite tough. But once you get into a routine, like anything, you adapt to it. And it was fine. So as long as you had chunks, the worst one was just the odd shift here and there, where you would have to stay awake as long as you could the night before so that you could sleep during the day.
Yeah. And I guess moving straight into a freelance role, was that difficult to sort of get off the ground? It was normally, people might expect to go into a full-time sort of employed position. Was it difficult for you to sort of adjust to that, or is it just something you had to overcome?
I think the most difficult aspect of being a freelancer, which you never really get told about, is your tax return. So for me, it wasn't actually the lifestyle of a freelancer. I think the lifestyle really suits me very well. I mean, I haven't actually had a full-time job at all in television. I've always been a freelancer, but I think the toughest one, kind of deciding to be a freelancer rather than a full-time, is that without that kind of contract, or without your finance being dealt with from the source, you're responsible for all your incomings, and doing everything on the tax returns. I mean, every January, every start of the year, it's just but I am a bit of a last minute person, so I do leave it to the last minute, so it's probably my own fault, but it's always a bit of a scramble really to get that tax return in. So yeah, I would say that would be one of the drawbacks, the setbacks of being a freelancer. But otherwise, the lifestyle is great. I think it really suits when you have something else that you want to focus on.
Yeah. And so what sort of support was you offered when you started this freelance gig with the BBC? Was it just shadowing, or did they give you a sort of more of a formal sort of training process?
Yeah. Oh no, I was totally trained up. So I had quite a few days where I would come in during the day. I would sit with the main autocue operator, and then they would show me the works. Basically, they would show me the program. They would show me problem solving. If anything ever went wrong, this is what you should do. You should click here. This is. So it was very much. I remember that my first shift, even though it was very nerve-wracking, I was totally prepared for it. So they didn't throw me under the bus, put it that way.
Yeah.
I was totally prepared when I went in for my first shift.
And how long did that take then, roughly? Was it days, weeks, or even months?
It definitely wasn't months. I think it was I would say about 3 or 4 days, maybe, of shadowing, and then I was in. Yeah.
Okay, quick learner then.
Yeah, quick learner. Yeah, but apart from the problem solving and the technical aspect of the program, autocue is just all about kind of getting used to the equipment, and the main thing about it is to just be very alert and on the ball, and everything going on around you in the gallery, you have to just be listening and alert the whole time. And I guess I was about 2021 at that time, so I was a spring chicken, so I was really I was good to do that, so no, it was fine, it was good.
And I'm curious that the lady who hired you sort of recognized the potential, and with you having sort of no sort of formal experience before, maybe some other skills had come into the mix, then more the soft skills, more the aptitude, and the drive came through, right?
Yeah, and I would also say that because in television, I'm sure it's like that for many industries, but especially in television, a lot of it is about teamwork. And I think that what people look for when they're hiring for people in television is personality. They're looking at people who are personable, who are sociable, who are easy to get on with, who can kind of come in reliably and do the job well. And I don't know what I said and I don't know what I did, but it was obviously that one conversation that I had with that lady. It was obviously enough for her to hire me. So
yeah, that's a great way to start off. And then so what's happened since, Georgina? Have you stuck purely with the sort of autocue work, or have you moved on to other skills and stuff?
Yeah, no, so from autocue I did that for about 4 years, and then I moved into floor managing. And again, that was an incredibly lucky break that I had as well. And I would say that comes down to networking. So I met a lot of people and I made a lot of contacts while I was at the BBC. And then I had a contact that I knew who went to a different channel, who completely out of the blue called me and said, would you like to come in and train up to be a floor manager for this new channel that we're launching? And so of course I just jumped at the chance and I went straight in. And that was a little bit that was more tricky, I would say, just in terms of there are many facets to being a floor manager, and I didn't necessarily have anyone to shadow, so it was very much I was being given instruction as I went along. It was very much a I learned the job on my feet kind of thing while I was in there. So there wasn't a manual per se for that floor managing role. So, but it was fantastic. And again, floor managing is a role that I feel I absolutely love. It's one of my favorites basically to do. There are so many facets to it, so many responsibilities, so many things, a lot of problem solving, especially when things go wrong live on air, which tends to happen quite a bit. I just love it. It's a fantastic environment to be in.
Cool. What's a typical day look like for you then in the floor managing, or is there a typical day?
No, there is a typical day. Yeah, I mean, obviously it depends on what kind of shows that you work on. I have predominantly just been in news. So that means that shows and programs tend to be very rigid. So you will pretty much have an idea already of what the breakdown of the day is going to look like already. There doesn't tend to be any out of the blue, things added in, or you've got to be here at this certain time, last minute. So go in first thing in the morning, and usually we do studio checks. And that will be testing microphones, making sure that everything is working and that everything is connected and no batteries have to be replaced, or technical things like that. And then basically just, I'd say about half an hour before the first program, I would start looking at the rundown, which is obviously, it's like almost like the Bible, if you like, for the program that is going to go on air. And there's kind of so much to kind of go into, but the rundown is, as I say, it's almost like the most important thing, because it's a breakdown of every single moment that happens in the program. So from the title sequence to the stings to the introductions from the presenters to the interviews with guests, to the guests coming in studio when that could actually happen, pre-COVID. And there are some logistical things as well as a floor manager that you have to work out. For example, if you have a guest that needs to be sat in at the desk, maybe first thing at the top of the program, for example, an expert in a specific topic that you are going to be talking about on the program, you need to work out when and how you're going to be able to take the guest on set without being seen on a camera. And the best way of doing that is under a package or a VT, which is what everybody probably knows as when the presenter throws to a journalist that has already taped before a package talking about that particular topic. So usually those last for about 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and underneath that you can get a chair at the desk and you can put a guest in, and obviously you need to have enough time to mic that person up, make sure that sound is happy. So there are so many things that are happening. So when you look in that rundown, basically what you're doing is you're completely time managing. You're working out, how can I get this person on? What kind of time do I need to start looking for the guest? If the guest is there, make sure the guest is ready and waiting outside. When can I, throw a mic on him and double check with sound that everything is good to go? And then, what kind of package and at what kind of point of this program can I actually put this guest on set? And then also after that, you've also got to take them off as well in the same fashion. You can't just be seen walking straight onto set on camera, live on air, taking a guest off set. So everything, the best way that I can describe television is almost like everything happens seamlessly and magically. It's almost like, we're all working behind the scene to make sure that everything goes as smooth as humanly possible. So,
Awesome.
Yeah, but of course, with live television, things can change. So this is another thing, and this is part of what I love about floor managing and also news broadcast, is that you can have breaking news and things can change. So the program can basically be subject to change while you're on air at any point. And basically, the floor manager takes a lot of instruction from the director. So obviously, as a floor manager, you have cams on, so you have a headset on and you can hear everything that's going on in the gallery. So people are talking, there's a lot of instructions flying around, but your main objective is to just follow what the director tells you to do, because she or he is leading the team for this output. So yeah, and then that happens and we do the program. Also, a really good point to make as well is not every floor manager has this responsibility. So it just kind of depends on what kind of organization you're at. But quite a lot of the time, a floor manager's responsibility is also to print scripts. And this is incredibly important, because even though there are quite a few places that have they've gone digital now, so they don't necessarily need paper, there are some presenters who don't feel safe without hard copy scripts, which is completely understandable. You know, for example, if autocue was to go down, or if we had some kind of technical difficulty, or a package couldn't be accessed, or it couldn't be played, and the director said, can you just repeat, you know, a top headline, the presenter needs those hard copy scripts in case something like that happens. So as I said, it's not necessary in every organization, but in most of the organizations that I have worked as a floor manager, it's my responsibility to print out scripts. And if you have hour-long programs, you need to be super organized. You need to be on top of that, because the worst thing is lagging behind on time and having all those responsibilities piled up and feeling like I don't have enough time to go and print the next section, and this presenter is going to be without that kind of safety blanket. So that's quite an important aspect as well.
Yeah. And do you deal with like unscripted and scripted? Do you deal with live productions and non-live?
So I do both, yes. So most of what I do, most of the programming is live. It's usually news broadcast, so it's going out live. But we do pre-scripted recordings as well, and that's usually for programs that are being edited and then put together as a different program, and that will be broadcast at a different time. And at the moment, because of the COVID situation, most of those are interviews with Skype guests.
I was going to ask you about the pandemic, actually, how that's impacted your work.
Yes. So because of the pandemic, of course, we can't have any guests live on set. But this is the best thing about this day and age. We have so much technology. So we have a lot of Skype calls and a lot of Zoom meetings as well. As long as the guests can be accessed, obviously. And yeah, so there are quite a lot of pre-records, which is what we call them. So that will go in again in the breakdown of the day, the programming, and yeah, that can be at any time, but usually that's booked in.
Yeah, that's good. And I guess sort of moving on from that is dealing with talent then. What's it like dealing with talent?
That's a great question. So generally speaking, most of the talent that I've worked with have been wonderful. They've been really, really, really very nice. You do get the odd character, let's put it that way. You do have the odd character, and yes, as a floor manager, it is your responsibility to make sure that the presenter is pretty happy. So if that means that you are running to get them water or cups of tea, or you know, updated scripts, or pretty much anything that they want, you kind of just have to do to make sure that they are happy. And yeah, I mean, to be wholly honest, I can't say that I have had many problems with talent. The only thing I would say is that presenters are under extreme pressure. I mean, everyone to a certain extent has that pressure, especially when it's live. But I think presenters being the face of the programming and things, I think that they are under a different kind of pressure, and different people react differently to that kind of situation. So I would also say that another aspect of floor managing, you do have to keep a bit of a thick skin.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's part of the job, but also I think you kind of get used to it after a while, and you just go in and you think, this is just part of my job, and I'm here to do what I've got to do. So
because some people have appear to be venting, perhaps, and it's not necessarily aimed at you, but
no, exactly. Yeah. I think the best way to sum it up would say, don't take anything personally.
Yeah. No, that's good advice. And so you've been sort of moving along from auto queuing to floor managing. Have you got any other aspirations, any other future direction you've got in mind at all
within television?
Yeah.
I would like to have a go at being on the other side of the camera. Now, whether that is ever going to transpire, it's yet to be seen, right? But yeah, I have had a few goes actually at sitting in the seat and reading the auto cue and having a go at that. And I mean, first of all, it's a lot harder than it looks. It's incredibly difficult. It's a real skill. It's a real skill. So but I think I would say that anyone that was coming into television, it's a great idea to have a clear goal of where you want to be going. And I would also say that any opportunity that you get faced with is a great opportunity, because I think television itself is quite a small industry, and it's kind of a good theory is that once you have your foot in the door, you can kind of go anywhere, but you've got to keep your foot in that door.
Yeah.
So any opportunity in any area, any opportunity to skill up, because that's what I did.
Yeah.
I went from auto cue to floor managing to sound assisting to I had a go at directing as well for a bit. So just keep skilling, just keep saying yes, basically any opportunities that arise.
And in fact, it's almost like you're maintaining that search, that career search, and maintaining your sort of network, because you never know where the next opportunity may come from.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And so you must have had some quite euphoric moments in your career. Is there any highlights that stick out for you, Georgina?
Another good question. I think just like learning any new skill, I would say, was really euphoric for me. I mean, when I trained up to be a director, and I think when I finished my first shift, and despite all the nerves and everything, and just sailed through it, and that feeling of managing to do something that perhaps a few years ago I saw everybody else doing, in the back of my mind thinking, oh, I'll never have a chance to do that, or I'd never be able to handle all of those different things happening at once and all that pressure. Once you do it, once you have the opportunity and the skills, and then once you do it, you realize that you can.
Yeah. And so in your career then, what does success mean for you, Georgina?
Success.
What makes you happy? What's the drive? What's the thing that makes you get up every day and do it again?
I think it's learning new things.
Yeah.
It's learning new things, because again, I think it's that aspect of live television. When you go in, you almost don't know what's going to happen, what might go wrong next, what I have to deal with next, or what I have to think on my feet for next. There's little problems kind of almost arising almost at every moment, but that is fantastic, because in the moment you don't really think about it, you just deal with it.
Yeah, it's a very dynamic environment to work in, right?
It's great.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. And I always like to have a bit of hindsight, or a bit of a retrospective. Is if you could meet your 18-year-old self now, Georgina, what advice would you give yourself?
I would say just have a clear goal of where you're going. Set your sights on anything that you're interested in, and anything that you naturally gravitate towards, and just go for it. Don't think about it. Because I think that when I was younger, I didn't think that I could do many of the things that I have actually already done by this point, but I didn't think I was capable of doing it, because it can be a bit overwhelming when you first walk into a broadcast environment, because there's so much happening, and there's so many roles and so many people that are so adept at what they're doing. When you're new in that environment, you can feel like, oh my gosh, I'm not sure that I could ever do something like that. I'm not sure I could ever be a presenter. I'm not sure that I could ever be a director. And actually, it's possible.
Yeah, I guess you got to work out what you do like and what you don't like at the same time, haven't you?
Exactly.
That's great advice. Well, if people want to sort of, contact you on Instagram, perhaps, I believe you've got a bit of an Instagram handle. It's at Sing Georgie.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, shameless plug, but no, it's no, but it is a good place to catch me if there are any questions. It's just my singing platform. So yeah, as a performer, that's my social media. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I'd just like to say thank you for coming on the show, Georgie, and it's been a wonderful insight into the world of floor managing and auto queuing for me as well.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Take care.
You too. Thanks.
Bye.